Most recruiters call a company when they see a job posted on LinkedIn. And here's the problem with that. By the time a job appears on LinkedIn, the hiring manager has already received calls from every other agency monitoring the same boards. Your call is not the first. It is not the third. You are somewhere between the 8th and the 15th person who has made contact that week. And at that point, you're not competing on quality. You're competing on luck, on who the hiring manager happened to feel like talking to that afternoon. The recruiters who consistently win exclusive assignments, retain searches, and long-term client relationships are not calling when the job is posted. They are calling before the job is posted, sometimes days before, sometimes weeks before. And when they call, the hiring manager thinks, how did you know this? The answer is signals, specific, observable, early stage signals that a company is about to need a recruiter, even before anyone on their team has written a job description. In this video, we are going to walk through 5 of the most powerful hiring signals available to recruiters right now, explain exactly what each one means, and show you how to use them to be the first call a hiring manager takes. By the end of this, you will have a system you can apply to your entire target market starting today, right now. Before we get into the 5 signals, it is worth understanding exactly why timing matters so much in recruiting business development, because it is not just about being first for the sake of it. It changes the entire nature of the conversation. When you call a hiring manager after a job has been posted, you are reacting. They know they have a need. They know every other recruiter knows they have a need. They are in a position of control, and you are one of many competing for their attention. The conversation starts from a position of weakness, whether you intended to or not. When you call a hiring manager before the job is posted, you're not reacting. You're delivering intelligence. You are saying, I noticed something happening in your business that suggests you're going to need help in the next few weeks. That positions you as an informed advisor, not a vendor chasing a posting. The hiring manager's first instinct shifts from, how do I get rid of this recruiter, to, how did you spot that and know that? Research from CEB, now part of Gartner, found that in B2B services, suppliers who engaged with the buyer before the formal buying process began won the assignment more than 70% of the time. In recruiting, that number tracks closely with what the best performing agencies reports. The recruiter who is already in conversation when the need becomes urgent almost always wins the work. The recruiter who responds to the posted job is already fighting a losing battle. Timing is not one factor among many. In recruiting BD, it is the dominant factor. Here are the 5 signals that lets you control it. Signal number 1, burst hiring activity in a single department. The first and most reliable pre-posting signal is what we call burst hiring activity. This is when a company posts 3 or more roles in the same department or function within a 14-day window. A single job posting is a routine hire. It might be a backfill, a planned addition, or replacement. When a company posts multiple roles in the same function within a short period, it is almost always a signal of something structural. A growth initiative that has been improved, a new contract won, a product expansion, or a team rebuild following departures. Whatever the cause, the pattern tells you this company is in active hiring mode in a specific area, and that mode typically continues for weeks or months. Here is the practical implications. If a company has posted 3 data engineering roles in the last 10 days, the probability is high that they are going to post a 4th, a 5th, or a senior leadership role to manage the team they're building. If you were already in conversation with the hiring manager when role 4 goes live, you do not need to compete for it. You're already the person they're thinking of. The specific conversation to have with this signal is straightforward. You call the head of engineering or the head of talent and you say, I notice you're scaling your data engineering function. Based on what I can see in the market, engineers with the profile you are looking for are harder to find than the job board suggests. I have been placing people in this space for some time, and I am seeing the same shortage across a lot of teams right now. Is it worth a quick conversation before your search gets more competitive? That call is not a cold call. It is a relevant, timely informed call, and the hiring manager knows it. In Flynt, burst hiring detection is one of your primary signals your agent monitors continuously. When a company in your target market crosses the threshold of 3 or more roles in the same function within 14 days, it surfaces immediately in your lead list, flagged with the department, the role details, posting timeline. You do not need to monitor job boards manually. Flynt does this overnight, every night across your entire target market. Signal 2, new funding announcement. The second signal is new funding, and it is one of the most predictable hiring triggers in the market. When a company closes a Series A, Series B, or Series C funding round, the board and the founding team have typically committed to an aggressive growth plan as part of securing that capital. Investors do not hand over millions of pounds or dollars to watch it sit in the bank. They expect headcount growth, product development, market expansion, and revenue targets. And every one of those outcomes requires people. Data from Crunchbase and AngelList consistently show that companies typically grow their headcount by 30 to 60% in the 12 months following a significant funding round. round. For a company that just closed a £15 million Series B with a team of 40 people, that could mean 15 to 25 new hires across engineering, sales, operations, and leadership. That is a significant recruiting need, and it is almost entirely predictable from the moment the funding announcement goes public. The timing window matters here. The first 2 weeks after a funding announcement are the highest value window to make contact. The leadership team is energized, the board mandate is fresh, and the hiring plan is being drafted. In weeks 3 and 4, they start receiving inbound calls from every agency that monitors TechCrunch and LinkedIn. By week 6, the head of talent is fielding 10 recruiter calls a week and has either made selections or gone internal. Call in week 1, call with a specific observation about what their funding announcement applies for their hiring needs based on what you have seen other companies at the same stage do in the same sector. Call with intelligence, not a pitch. Flynt monitors funding announcements as a secondary context signal for every company in your target market. When a company your agent tracks closes a new round, the funding information is surfaced alongside their current hiring activity, the decision maker, contact, and a personalization hook built specifically around the funding context. You see it in the morning, it becomes relevant, not 3 weeks later when the window has closed. Signal 3, new senior leader joins. The third signal is a leadership change, and it is one most recruiters underestimate. When a new VP of engineering, chief technology officer, head of sales, or director of operations joins a company, something very predictable happens in the months that follow. They assess the team they inherited, they identify gaps, they bring in people they have worked with before, and they restructure reporting lines. And in the vast majority of cases, they hire. The research on executive onboarding from leadership advisory firm Egon Zehnder found that over 80% of newly appointed senior leadership makes at least one significant hire within their first 6 months in roles. In technology and growth businesses, that number is higher. The typical pattern is 30 to 60 days to assess the existing team, 60 to 90 days to build the case for headcount, 90 to 120 days to start the hiring process, which means the best time to reach a new VP of engineering is not when they have finished their assessment and are ready to hire. It is 2 to 4 weeks after they start, before the assessment is done, when they are still forming their views of team gaps and are genuinely open to an informed conversations about the market. The conversation with the newly joined leader is different from any other BD call. You are not calling about a specific vacancy. You are calling to establish yourself as a market intelligence resource. The opening is something like, hey, I saw that you recently joined Meridian Capital. I specialize in placing engineering leadership and senior data roles in the financial technology space. I work with a number of firms similar stage to Meridian, and I have a reasonable view of what the talent market looks like for the profiles you are likely to need. Whenever you get to the point of building out your team, I would like to be someone who I've already spoken to. That call costs the new leader nothing. It positions you as informed and low pressure, and when they do start hiring 6 weeks later, you are already in their phone as someone worth calling. Flynt tracks leadership changes at companies in your target market by monitoring announcements, LinkedIn activity, company news. When a new senior is detected at a company your agent is watching, it surfaces the relevant decision maker details, the context around the appointment, and a personalized lead hook based on that individual's career background. You get the signal within days of the appointment, not weeks later when everyone else has already made contact. Signal 4, major contract win or market expansion. The fourth signal is a contract win or expansion announcement, and it is the signal most directly linked to an immediate urgent hiring need. When a company announces that it has won a major new contract, opened a new office, entered a new market, or launched a significant new product, there's always a staffing gap behind that announcement. The business has committed to a deliverable, a location, or a product that its current team is not sized to support. The hiring needs is not future stats, it is right now, and the pressure to fill it quickly is high because there is a client, a board, or a launch date waiting on the other side. The system is particularly powerful in professional services, technology, and engineering sectors where client contracts are staffed by people with specific hard-to-fill skill sets. A consulting firm that wins a digital transformation contract needs a project managers and business analysts. A construction company that wins a major infrastructure contract needs a project engineer and site managers. A software company that launches a new enterprise product needs implementation specialists and customer success managers. These needs emerge from the contract win and need to be filled on a timeline the company does not fully control. The call to make on the signal is the most direct of the 5. You have seen their announcement. You have a view on the type of people they're going to need to deliver on it, and you have relevant placements in that space. The conversation is almost always welcomed because the company already knows they have a hiring challenge ahead of them. You're not creating urgency, you're simply responding to urgency that already exists. What separates the recruiter who wins the conversation from the one who does not is the specificity they bring to it. Saying, hey, I saw you won a new contract, we recruit in your space is generic. Saying, I saw you won the Barclays digital infrastructure contract, we have placed 6 cloud infrastructure engineers into financial service implementation projects in the last 18 months. I have 2 actively available right now who have direct experience on similar programs. Is a different conversation entirely. Flynt services contract wins and expansion announcements as part of the company news layer. It builds around every lead. When a company your agent is tracking makes a significant public announcement, the relevant context is delivered alongside the decision maker, contact, and a company-specific personalization hook. You are not searching news feeds manually. The intelligence arrives in your morning leads list, ready to action. Signal 5, your existing client just hired a role their competitor does not have. The 5th signal is the one that most recruiters have never systematically exploited, and it is potentially the most valuable of all. We call it the competitor intelligence signal. Here's how it works. You place a head of data science at company A in your target market. Company B is company A's direct competitor. They operate in the same space, they serve very similar clients, and they compete for the same talent. The moment you successfully place that role at company A, you created an intelligence advantage over company B. Company B's leadership team is almost certainly aware that their competitor just hired a head of data science. They may not know the exact details, but they know the capability gap between them just widened. In competitive markets, that kind of hire by a direct competitor is a trigger for internal conversations about capability, strategy, and headcount. The question being asked in company B's leadership team right now is, should we be building this capability too? The call you make to company B is not a cold call. It is a briefing. I'm not able to share confidential information about placements I have made, but I can tell you that I have a very strong view of what the data science talent market looks like in your sector right now, and what the most competitive teams are doing to build this capability. Is it worth 15 minutes to share what I'm seeing? That is a call a competitive leader takes because the intelligence is genuinely valuable, regardless of whether they end up hiring through you. More broadly, the competitor signal applies anytime your market knowledge creates a relevant observation for a company adjacent to one that you already work with. Every placement you make is a data point. Every data point is potentially a door into a new conversation if you are willing to position your knowledge correctly. Flynt supports the signal through its target market architecture. When you build agents around specific sectors and job functions, Flynt maps the companies operating in that space. When one company in your market shows a significant hiring pattern in a particular function, the adjacent competitors in the same sector become priority targets. The system surfaces them with a full decision maker detail and company context and personalization hooks. So your competitor intelligence call starts from a position of prepared, specific knowledge rather than a vague hunch. Let us now talk about what happens when you try to monitor these 5 signals manually across a target market of say 100 companies. You would need to check job boards every morning for burst hiring patterns. You would need to monitor TechCrunch, Crunchbase, and company press release for funding announcements. You would need to track LinkedIn for leadership changes. You would need to follow business news for contract wins. And you need to cross-reference all of that against your existing placements and your competitor map every single day before you have written a single email or made a single call. That is 2 to possibly 5 hours of daily research minimum. And if you miss a day, you miss the window. The funding announcement from Tuesday that you see on Friday is already cold. The competitor hire from last week that you noticed today has already been picked up by the agencies who are watching. That is precisely the problem Flynt was built to eliminate. When you set up a Flynt agent, you define your target market once, the sectors you recruit in, the decision maker titles you want to reach, the company size, and geography. From that point, the agent runs every night without you. It monitors active hiring patterns for burst signals. It surfaces funding announcements and business news as they emerge. It detects leadership changes at target companies within days of the appointments. It tracks contract wins and expansion announcements, and it packages all of that intelligence into a scored, prioritized lead list as waiting in your inbox every morning before you open your laptop. Each lead arrives with a decision maker's direct contact information, a match score against your criteria, and 3 personalization hooks, one built from the company's recent news and business context, one built from the decision maker's professional background, and one built from the specific hiring signals that triggered the lead. You're not starting from research, you are starting from a prepared brief that tells you exactly who to call, why today is the right day to call them, and what to say in the first 10 seconds. The recruiters who are winning new clients consistently in 2026 are not just working longer hours than everyone else. They have replaced 2 hours of daily manual research with a system that runs overnight and delivers the same signal intelligence that makes every call a warm one. That is the structural advantage Flynt gives you, and it compounds every single day. Your competitors are still watching searching job boards. Before we close, let us be very specific about what changes when you call with signal intelligence versus calling cold. A cold call after a job posting sounds like, hey, I saw you have a data engineering role on LinkedIn. We specialize in that space and I wanted to introduce our firm. The hiring manager's internal response is, everyone's called about that. I'm already talking to 2 other agencies. How do I get off this call politely? A signal-led call sounds like this. Hi, I noticed Meridian has posted 4 Databricks engineering roles in the last 2 weeks. Based on what I'm seeing in the market right now, that profile is significantly harder to find than it was 18 months ago. I have been placing engineers in this space consistently, and I have a view on where the available talent actually is. Is it worth 15 minutes before your search gets more competitive? The hiring manager's internal response is, this person has actually looked at what we're dealing with. They might know something useful. That shift from interruption to relevance is entirely a function of whether you are calling with signal intelligence or calling blind. The signal does not just give you a reason to call, it changes the nature of the relationship from the very first sentence. The 5 signals we covered today are burst hiring activity, new funding announcements, leadership changes, contract wins, and expansion announcements. And finally, competitor intelligence. Each one gives you an early stage window to reach a company before the job is posted, before the competition has mobilized, and before the hiring manager has 10 other calls this week. We have linked a free 7-day trial for Flynt in the description below. Your first agent is set up in less than 5 minutes, and your first signal-led lead arrives the same day. The recruiter who calls with the signal wins the conversation. The recruiter who calls after the posting joins the long line. That gap is entirely a systems problem and is entirely solvable. Subscribe to the channel for more recruiting BD intelligence, tool breakdowns, and frameworks for building a consistent client pipeline. We publish videos every week, and we'll see you on the next one.